This is my petition for Coach Tomlin and the Pittsburgh Steelers to make me the next offensive coordinator, or just a player in general. As you know, the Steelers have not been doing so hot on offense lately. Their defense is pretty solid. But with the injury of Minkah Fitzpatrick, things can go horribly wrong on that side of the ball. Hopefully the return of Captain Cam is soon. But the offense has been struggling. Pickett is down. Mitch Trubisky is not great. And the run game is non-existent. And even when it is existent, the offensive line can't form the proper holes for running backs to plow through. And then there's Matt Canada. When our receivers aren't doing so hot, not running the proper routes or catching the balls, you blame it on the OC. Why? Because he's the one doing the play calling and it's very, very bad. Come on, it can't be that hard to learn a freaking fracking playbook. But it is what I must do. I'm ready when you are. I am always ready. Now, guess what's on today's menu? More chaos! Hello, Steelers Nation. Welcome to another episode of Steelcast, a podcast where you don't have to be a Steelers fan. But it sure does help. I'm your host, Zach. More predictions, more chaos. Attack! And today we're going to be going over the Week 9 NFL 2023 predictions. And this last week was a bit interesting. You had the Broncos breaking their losing streak against the Chiefs. All the cat teams won. That means Carolina got their first win of the season. You had a whole bunch of 17-31 games a few weeks in a row. San Francisco falls 3 straight games. The Giants threw -9 yards and put that game into overtime. That's an actual stat. Yes, an actual stat. But most importantly, the trade deadline happened. And on this said trade deadline day, there were trades. The Vikings got Josh Dobbs because Kirk Cousins was injured. The Lions got Donovan Peoples-Jones. The Bears got Montez Sweat. And then to refix their pass rush, that should be good. The 49ers got Chase Young. And yeah, there were a lot of trades that happened. So let's just go ahead and start going over some of them. Oh, and the Bills also got Russell Douglas. I forgot to mention that one. So we'll start off with the Thursday night football game only on Amazon Prime and Twitch if you have it. We have the Tennessee Titans taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Titans. Well, Ryan Tannehill going into this week has only thrown 2 touchdowns the entire season, which means all their other tutties this week have either been by Derrick Henry or their other running backs, or just jet sweeps, which has there been any? I don't know. I don't pay much attention to Titans because I don't really care. But then the rookie, Will Levis, the mailman, comes in and throws 4 in one game. And they beat the Atlanta Falcons. And the mailman shows he could be the future for Tennessee. Taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers, who didn't do so high against the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jacksonville Jaguars, in the first half, turned over the ball twice to Pittsburgh Steelers and still won that game. Do not ask me how. Our offense is not good. And the one time Calvin Ridley actually shows up for a football game, something happens. I am going to go for the Pittsburgh Steelers to win this game. It's a short week. They're still at home this week. And this is one of 2 Thursday night football games the Steelers are going to have this week. So, Titans like the hit. So I'm hoping that the Steelers don't get injuries this week, because we already had some last week and I'm not looking forward to more. So Steelers win, and everything is laid to rest in Pittsburgh. Looking good. Then you have one of 2 Frankfurt, Germany games. You have the Miami Dolphins taking on the Kansas City Chiefs. The Dolphins getting their done against the New England Patriots last week. And the Chiefs losing to the Denver Broncos somehow, some way. I think their entire offense caught the cold, because it did not look good. Patrick Mahomes making too many mistakes, throwing too many interceptions, fumbling a few times. It was not beautiful for the Chiefs last week. But Brandon Perna got his birthday present, so I guess it's all that matters. This is a tough one to predict, because both teams have not been doing so hot lately, namely on the offensive side of the ball. So I'm going, and this could be Tyreek Hill's revenge game. However, I am going to pick Kansas City to win. I don't know if they will, but assuming they do, then this is like a get-right game for them, which could very well be the case. I would, if I was a KC fan, I would be like, this is a get-right game. You're going overseas. The Dolphins don't do well overseas. I mean, take a look at the London game with the Jaguars a few years back. So I'm going to pick KC to win, and we'll see how that rolls. Then you have the Minnesota Vikings taking on the Atlanta Falcons. The Vikings coming away big against the Packers, but losing Kirk Cousins to injury by the Achilles in the process. Keeps pulling in Aaron Rodgers. And then you have the Atlanta Falcons, who just lost to the Titans and the mailman. I am going to pick the Vikings to win. Josh Dobbs played pretty well in Arizona despite the one win that they had. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. And good luck, Josh Dobbs. Respect to you. And then you have the Arizona Cardinals taking on the Cleveland Browns. The Cardinals losing to the Ravens, but keeping it competitive, question mark? I don't know. And then you had the Cleveland Browns, who lost to the Seahawks. They had them, and then they blew it. I guess it makes sense because they're the Browns. I am going to pick Cleveland to win because the Cardinals don't have Josh Dobbs anymore, and the Browns are, well, they're the Browns. But their defense is still pretty darn good. I don't know how they're going to do against Arizona, who is a really weird team, but I am going to pick them to win. And then you have the LA Rams taking on the Green Bay Packers. The Rams getting their butts kicked by the Dallas Cowboys, who just came back off their bye week last week. And then you have the Green Bay Packers, who are on a really bad 5-game losing streak right now. It is not looking good for Green Bay, and it's not looking for good for Green Bay here, going up against Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp after you just lost to Sul Douglas to the trade deadline. So I am going to pick the Rams to win. And sorry, cheeseheads. But it ain't looking good for y'all right now. And then you have the Washington Commanders taking on the New England Patriots. The Commanders keeping it competitive like the Eagles, like they normally do, and still coming up short. And then you got the New England Patriots, who just suck. The Commanders losing 2 of their best defensive linemen to the trade deadline. But honestly, that pass rush hasn't been that good anyways. So, at least not lately. So honestly, I cannot be that surprised. And yeah, it's bad. It's bad for both of these teams. I honestly do not know who's going to win this game. Because you got the the Patriots have a solid defense. It's not as good as it normally is, but it's a solid defense. And the Commanders have a bad defense, but the Patriots offense is not that good. I am going to be bold and pick the Commanders to win. Do not have a whole lot of faith in that, but the Patriots' offense is not very good, so I don't know what to say. But then you have the Chicago Bears taking on the New Orleans Saints. The Bears getting their butts kicked by the Chargers. I think we also had that one coming. And then the New Orleans Saints beating the Colts. Can't say I'm surprised, but I'm surprised that they did it by a slightly bigger margin than they won by. I am going to pick the Saints to win because they're going up against the Bears, and the Bears have a backup QB right now who's basically a known name because no one knows what the heck he is. Probably came from the XFL. I don't actually know because I really don't pay attention to this kind of stuff. And Saints win, end of story. Then you have the Seattle Seahawks taking on the Baltimore Ravens. The Seahawks getting her done last week against the Cleveland Browns, and now leading that division with San Francisco's downfall. By the way, they're on a bye this week, so if you can get the win against Baltimore, that would not only be appreciative to me, but that would put you ahead of the 49ers. But it's not just that, my friends. Although I don't think it's going to be the case. Because now that I think about it, the Baltimore Ravens are on a hot streak right now. Both games in the past 2 weeks, they've scored over 30 points. Sure, the defense struggled a little bit against the Cardinals, but that's because the Cardinals are a really weird competitive team. They blow out a good one, they struggle against a bad one. That's just how the Ravens roll. I don't know why. Lamar be looking like he's going to have an MVP caliber season as long as the receivers don't drop the football. And I am going to pick the Ravens to win. I hope that they don't because I really need them to lose at some point. But with the way they're playing and then the quality of opponent not being very good these next few weeks, I mean, it could be worse. The Seahawks aren't a bad team. But I don't know if it's going to be enough. So I am going to pick the Ravens to win. But yeah, we'll just see how this rolls. But then you have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking on the Houston Texans. The Bucks losing to Buffalo on Thursday night. So having a little bit of an extra week to prepare for this game. And they were playing for the Texans, who had their loss to the winless team, Carolina Panthers. Bryce Young still holding strong in CJ Stroud. That rivalry goes forever true. This is a tough one to decide because Tampa Bay, like San Francisco, has had a little bit of a downfall recently. And Houston hasn't been doing so hot either. But I like Tampa Bay a little bit more because they have a lot of veterans on their team, whereas Houston's squad is very, very young. So I am going to pick the Bucks to win. Because they were able to keep it competitive against Buffalo for a little while. They only lost by 6. And they were going up against a good Buffalo team, whereas the Texans were not going up against a very good team in the Carolina Panthers. Which is kind of weird because they have a lot of veterans on their team. So it's kind of weird that the Panthers have been winning more games. Maybe it's a Bryce Young developing issue. I don't know. But anyways, Tampa Bay wins, end of story. Then you have the Indianapolis Colts taking on said Carolina Panthers. Colts getting wrecked by the Saints, although it wasn't bad. When I say what, it wasn't that bad of a wreck. Let's just say they didn't have a very good second half. Let's just say that. And then you had the Carolina Panthers getting their first win. It was ugly, but they got it done. I am going to pick the Colts to win just because the Colts are a high-scoring offense. Because even though they've been losing and their defense has been holding out strong, they've been putting up points. And that's really all that matters at this rate, is that they can put up points. The Panthers have not been able to put up very many points on many teams. So, yeah, Panthers win. The Colts win. And we'll see how that goes. Then you have the New York Giants taking on the Las Vegas Raiders. The Giants putting that game into overtime, and even though they did, if that team just did not show up, they would have had more passing yards than they did when they were on the field. That's an actual stat, people. Like I said before the video started, they threw for -9 yards. It was all Saquon Barkley that night. And they still punched that thing into overtime at 10 even and lost to the Jets. Yep. I don't know. But then, anyways, you have and then get the Raiders who lost on Monday night to the Lions. Although that actually kind of makes some sense. But what I want to know is why the Lions didn't just blow them out like the Bears did. And the Bears had a backup QB. But we're not going to worry about it too much. I am going to pick the Raiders to win, only because the Giants have not been doing so hot lately. Especially on the offensive side of the ball. So I am going to pick the Raiders to win with Jimmy G back. Maybe he won't make as many mistakes as he did on Monday night. And we'll see how that rolls for them. Then you have the Dallas Cowboys taking on the Philadelphia Eagles in an NFC East showdown that is for a lot of marbles. This game is either going to be the game of the week or the one after it, because this is a crazy matchup. Both teams need a win here. The Eagles need to win if they want to cement their status as the best team in the NFL, and the Dallas Cowboys need to win if they have any chance of winning that division. The Cowboys last week winning against the Rams in astronomical fashion, and then the Eagles keeping it close with the Commanders, but being able to pull out the win at the very end. And they were even down in the first half at a point. I am going to pick the Eagles to win, only because they're at home this game, and even though it is a division matchup, and we all know how division matchups can go sometimes, I mm, 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 mm. I feel like this game could be like a blowout from Philly. Like the Cowboys defense is very, very good. The Cowboys defense is very, very good. Micah Parsons is basically a legend now. The Cowboys offense is firing on all cylinders, but when they go up against a good team, they crumble. Take a look at the 49ers when they were on that 5-game win streak. Mm. For the Browns ended it and then they crumbled. And then injuries happened. I'm gonna keep my pick as the Eagles, and then we'll see how that rolls from there. Then you have the Buffalo Bills taking on the Cincinnati Bengals Sunday night. The Bills getting it done against Tampa Bay Thursday night, so they had some rest for Sunday night, which is good for them because they're going to need it. Because the kitty goes meow is back, baby. And they're back. And just in time, too. Can they beat the Bills? Yes, because they've done it before. Look at the playoffs last week before faltering to the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game, which thankfully they did. Otherwise, I would have been in shambles. This is a hard one because if you told me that about the Bengals at the beginning of the season, I would have said, "Oh yeah, Buffalo easily." But it's tough now, tougher than the last game. Because you have the Bills who haven't been doing so good on offense lately, and then you have the kitty goes meow who has been finding their rhythm lately. Hmm. Battle of the J quarterbacks, Joe or Josh. Um, it's tough. It's tough, but that defense has been for the kitty goes meow has been playing pretty well lately. And honestly, I might just go with the Bengals here. I don't know how I feel about that, especially considering that I have again for the third week in a row every one of our division teams winning their games. But I mean, even if the Bengals lose, like it's not going to be the end of the world. I'm already lost a Sunday night game, so like I'm just going for broke here. I do think the Bengals are actually going to win, unfortunately, and it's going to bring me down into deep sorrow. But it's fine because Joey Brrr, and the Kitty Gives Meow are still last in the division right now. I don't know how long they're going to stay like that, but I need them to stay like that. And it would be greatly appreciated. Anyways, next up and lastly, the Monday night game. You have the LA Chargers taking on the New York Jets. The Chargers. Getting it done against the Bears on Sunday Night Football in quite great fashion. Then the Jets, I don't know what was going on with them. They somehow squeaked it out, and we're not going to ask questions. I am going to pick the Chargers to win only because they actually had a blowout win and they weren't giving their fans like every 5 seconds, which I should know because I'm a Steelers fan and sometimes I have to deal with every 5 freaking seconds. And now my heart is beating fast and it's not going to go well for me after this. I can already feel it. Anyways, I do pick the Chargers to win against the Jets. Hopefully I am right and everything will be happy again in LA. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. I should have said this at the beginning. I forgot to. But in Pick'em League last week, I went 11-5. Fine. Actual good week for me. Putting me at 80-42 on the season. And respect. Respect to my name. I'm doing pretty well in Pick'em right now, thankfully. So let me know how you're doing in Pick'em. And then we'll just go from there. I'm your host, X-Hack, and as always,
you're in Steelers country.